Hey everybody, it's Rich from Rerun Zone. Coming up next, it's list time again. Yep, that's right. I'm going to be naming my top 5 personal picks for season-ending cliffhangers of sci-fi TV series. You know, the classic ones. And I had a really hard time narrowing this one down. Now this list will cover classic TV season-ending cliffhangers, not series-ending cliffhangers. That's a whole other video. With that in mind, these are my personal favorite nail-biter episodes that I couldn't wait to see what happens next. Yours are probably going to be different. You may agree with some, you may not have seen all of these, but leave your favorites in the comments below. But first, if you're a lover of nostalgia and you like classic TV shows like The Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, Lost in Space, then you're going to love this channel, so make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Now, on to the list. Fantasy, sci-fi, nostalgia, Rerun Zone. When Stargate SG1 debuted in 1997, it was a huge ratings hit for cable network Showtime. It ran for 10 years and spawned 2 other live-action shows, Stargate Atlantis and Stargate Universe. SG1 had a couple of great cliffhanger episodes, but the Season 3 finale Nemesis was my favorite. They introduced us to a new enemy called the Replicators in this episode, and these relentless, almost indestructible little machines were a real threat to both the alien Asgard and to Earth itself. The episode starts off with SG-1 taking a break as Daniel Jackson is recuperating from an emergency appendectomy. Michael Shanks, who played Daniel Jackson, was actually suffering from a real-life appendix attack that he suffered while filming the next to last episode, Crystal Skull. They wrote his condition into the script at the last minute. Colonel O'Neill, played by Richard Dean Anderson, invites Major Sam Carter, played by Amanda Tapping, on a fishing trip. As she turns him down, O'Neill is suddenly transported to the alien Asgard spaceship, which is orbiting Earth. Now this is where things really get dicey, as we're introduced to the new insect-like little replicator robots whose only task is to consume the ship's metal and create more of themselves in the process. Thor, the commander of the Asgard ship, is in really bad shape, and he tells O'Neill that they're on a collision course with Earth, where the replicators are searching for more materials to consume. They come up with a plan to burn the spaceship up in Earth's atmosphere, which will destroy all the replicators before they can reach the Earth. The replicators block access to the bridge though, so Carter and Thor come up with an alternative plan that involves planting a bomb on the ship's outer hull to stop the ship's protection mechanisms from kicking in. If you've never seen this episode, I won't spoil the rest for you, but Nemesis is well worth your time. It's a great story, full of action, suspense, and some serious sci-fi stakes. It's a standout cliffhanger in sci-fi television history. I watched Battlestar when it first came out in 1978 and really liked it at the time. But when screenwriter and producer Ronald D. Moore reimagined the series in 2003, I was very skeptical. Were they going to stay true to the original feel of the show, or change it up so it was unrecognizable? Well, any fears I had quickly went away after I saw the first episode. The characters were great, and the writing really drew me in. I couldn't wait to watch the next episode. The first season really set the tone of the series, with what remained of humanity after the destruction of their homeworld, fleeing from the sentient robots called Cylons. There was the very real threat of humanity's annihilation, but also political drama with differing opinions on what direction the fleet should go. On top of that was the betrayal of Gaius Baltar, who was fraternizing with the enemy. At the end of Season 2 came a huge shift in direction for Galactica. It was the 2-part season finale, Lay Down Your Burdens Part 1 and 2. The remaining 49,000 plus humans have been on the run for the first 2 seasons, and they're growing tired of running. When they accidentally discover a habitable planet, many of the survivors want to settle on the new home, even though the conditions on the planet are very difficult. Tom Zarek, played by Richard Hatch, who was the character Apollo in the original series, convinces Baltar that the fleet can make this planet a new home. But Commander Adama and President Rosalind think the Cylons might already know about this world and believe they should keep looking for Earth. I don't want to get too much more into the plot without giving it away for those of you who've never seen it, but Part 2 changes everything in this series, and it makes it into my top 5 cliffhangers of all time. I have many memories of Babylon 5, and I've watched it multiple times throughout the years. It has great characters coupled with gripping stories, which makes it a must-see watch for any fan of science fiction. It was one of my first TV series that I can remember that carried a storyline throughout its entire run. It was able to sprinkle in standalone episodes for character development while also staying on course with its war with the shadows. The first 3 seasons set us up for a dramatic payoff in Season 4, which was set up by the tension-filled Season 3 cliffhanger episode, Zahadum, named after the mysterious Shadow's homeworld. This was a cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers, as Captain Sheridan's wife Anna, who was presumed dead on the Shadow's homeworld, shows up at his door. She tells Sheridan that she was rescued from Zahadum and says she'll take any test he wants to prove that it's really her. Dr. Franklin examines Anna and tells Sheridan that all the tests are positive, that it's really Anna. But there is some scarring on the back of her head that he fears are some type of shadow implants that could be controlling her. Anna tries to convince Sheridan that he needs to go to Zahadum with her, even though everyone tells him it's a really bad idea. Sheridan is convinced, though, that he has to go to Zahadum to try and stop the shadows, even though he knows it's a trap. Sheridan and Anna land on Zahadum and are taken to speak with other human agents of the shadows. They try to convince Sheridan to work with them, and they'll help the human race to be among the strongest when they rebuild after the coming war. In the meantime, shadow vessels are appearing around Babylon 5, completely surrounding the station. I can't go into too much more detail without giving the ending away, but let's just say if you watch this series from the beginning, you won't be disappointed. This is a great cliffhanger, and it makes my list of one of the top 5 greatest sci-fi cliffhangers of all time. I've been a science fiction fan since I read Jack Vance's Planet of Adventure series back in the 1960s, as well as anything I could get my hands on by Arthur C. Clarke or Isaac Asimov. So TV series like Star Trek, Lost in Space, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, they were all up my alley. Then in 1993 came a little sci-fi drama known as the X-Files. It was an FBI division that investigated paranormal and otherworldly phenomena. Headed up by Agent Fox Mulder and Dr. Dana Scully, the X-Files followed an alien mythology arc as well as Monster of the Week stories. In the Season 2 cliffhanger, Anasazi, a teenage boy on a Navajo Indian reservation, finds what looks like an alien corpse inside of a boxcar which is buried in the ground. At the same time, a hacker infiltrates Defense Department files and finds evidence of alien life and a government cover-up in the files. He passes his info on to Mulder, but when Mulder tries to read the files, they're encrypted in what looks like gibberish. Scully looks them over and recognizes them as an old code in the Navajo Indian language. There's also an important subplot with the cigarette-smoking man and Agent Alex Krycek, who's an old nemesis of Mulder. And it involves Mulder's father being murdered by Krycek under orders from the Syndicate. Mulder sees that he's being framed and journeys to the New Mexico desert, where he meets a Navajo elder named Albert Hosteen. Hosteen's grandson takes Mulder to the buried boxcar, which Mulder finds full of alien corpses. This episode has it all, from spy intrigue, to assassination, to alien mythology, and to what is, in my opinion, one of the best TV season-ending cliffhangers in sci-fi history. If you haven't seen it yet, and you're a sci-fi fan, you owe it to yourself to watch this whole series, and this cliffhanger in particular. I've watched this cliffhanger more times than I can remember, but each time it's just as good. This has got to be, hands down, the best sci-fi season-ending cliffhanger of all time. It was a time when the Borg were truly a feared enemy on Star Trek. The episode starts with a distress call from a distant Federation outpost. The Enterprise arrives to find the outpost totally destroyed. Only a large crater remains in its place. All signs point to the Borg, and the entire Federation is put on the alert. When a Borg cube shows up, the crew is shocked when they hail the Enterprise and ask for Captain Picard by name, demanding that he surrender himself. Of course he refuses, but then the Borg start to randomly appear on the bridge. Finally, one grabs Picard from behind and beams him back to the cube. Picard is now their prisoner. Will Riker wants to take an away team to rescue Jean-Luc, but Deanna reminds him that he's now in charge and he needs to stay on the Enterprise. Lieutenant Commander Shelby, who wants Riker's first officer position, is now put in charge of the away team. The Borg ignore them at first until they start to use phasers on some of the Borg equipment. Here, we get the shocking reveal that Jean-Luc Picard has now been transformed into a Borg. Riker now faces the unthinkable, having to destroy the Borg cube with Picard on it to save all humanity from being assimilated. The Best of Both Worlds Part 1 is a true masterpiece of a cliffhanger. It sets the standard for sci-fi television. Even now, decades later, it still stands as one of the best episodes of Star Trek in the history of the franchise. Whether you agree or disagree with my list, leave your picks in the comments below. And if you want to explore the world of classic sci-fi even further, make sure to check out this video right here. This is Rich from Rerun Zone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.